John Carpenter is mostly associated with the many horror, action, and sci-fi flicks he directed, like the 1982 sci-fi horror The Thing, the 1981 dystopian thriller Escape from New York, or the 1978 slasher Halloween. But for a lot of cult movie fans, one of his strangest, funniest, and most unforgettable films is still the 1986 cult classic Big Trouble in Little China. Undoubtedly one of Carpenter's wildest films, Big Trouble in Little China starred Kurt Russell as the loudmouthed truck driver Jack Burton, who has to help his friend Wang Chi save his fiancée Miao Yin from the deadly sorcerer Lo Pan. The film still has a cult following today, which makes me wonder why they never made a proper movie sequel to it. With Hollywood catching a bad case of sequel fever and almost every memorable film getting either a sequel, a remake, or a reboot, it is really surprising that Big Trouble in Little China has mostly missed that treatment on the big screen. I went down a huge rabbit hole while trying to find out why, and now it's my pleasure to tell you all about it. Let's go. The box office curse. Why the sequel was not brought up sooner. The script for Big Trouble in Little China was first written under the title Lotus by writers Gary Oldman and David Z. Weinstein. The duo had originally envisioned it as an 1880s Western, but later W.D. Richter was hired to modernize it. Carpenter was impressed by the script because it was a wonderful blend of action, mystery, adventure, ghost story, comedy, and monster movie. It also helped that he was fond of Hong Kong action films and saw this project as a way to fulfill his longtime dream of making his own martial arts film. 20th Century Fox put a rush on Big Trouble in Little China because Paramount Pictures was preparing to release The Golden Child, starring Eddie Murphy. The two films weren't identical, but they were both comedic fantasy adventures that involved Chinese mysticism, and Fox feared that if Carpenter's film had to go against Murphy's massive box office pull, it could lose. So the studio pushed to get Big Trouble in Little China out first. Despite all these precautions from the studio, Big Trouble in Little China bombed at the box office. It earned about $11.1 million domestically, against an estimated budget usually reported in the $19 to $25 million range. One major reason could be Fox's failed attempt to market the film. If you've seen the film, you'll know that Jack Burton is someone who thinks he's capable of more than what he can actually do. He is not the clean, unbeatable action hero the posters might have promised. He's a swaggering, self-mythologizing guy who keeps stumbling into a story where Wang Chi is often the more traditionally capable hero. Fox, however, promoted him much more like an all-American action lead. Even the trailer downplayed some of the comedy and genre weirdness that made the movie so special. This miscommunication failed to properly sell the film to audiences. In the DVD commentary for the film, Russell and Carpenter also discussed James Cameron's Aliens, which opened shortly after Big Trouble in Little China, as one possible factor in the film's underwhelming performance. The initial failure of the film hit John Carpenter hard. He later said that the experience of Big Trouble in Little China was the reason he stopped making movies for Hollywood studios, adding, "I think Big Trouble is a wonderful film, and I'm very proud of it. But the reception it received and the reasons for that reception were too much for me to deal with. I'm too old for that sort of bullshit." Good art never just fades into obscurity, though. Big Trouble in Little China eventually found audiences through television, VHS, DVD, and home media, and became a cult hit. Empire even placed the film at number 430 on its list of the 500 greatest movies of all time. Enter The Rock, the 2015 remake Interest. It's hence no surprise that people in the industry took some time to come around to the idea of continuing this world. In 2015, The Wrap reported that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was in negotiations with 20th Century Fox to star in a remake of Big Trouble in Little China, with writers Zach Stentz and Ashley Edward Miller working on the script. As the film was one of Johnson's favorites, he pitched the remake to Fox with Hiram Garcia and Danny Garcia, his producing partners at $7 Productions. But troubles started straight away, as fans were not happy that their favorite film was going to be remade. Johnson addressed the backlash by stressing his love for the original, saying that he wanted to approach the project with respect and hoped to involve John Carpenter in some capacity. Johnson insisted that he loved the original film and wanted to surround himself with the right people who also loved it, hoping they could make something good. But for fans, that was not enough to calm the storm. While Johnson had implied that he wanted Carpenter involved, Carpenter had something different to say. When asked about the remake, Carpenter said, "It might be crazy, it might be great. I don't know. Nobody's told me anything. No one tells me anything." This quote pushed fans even further against the remake idea because it made the whole thing sound less like a blessing from Carpenter and more like another Hollywood attempt to reuse one of his titles. Probably owing to the backlash, Hiram Garcia revealed to Collider in 2018 that the plan was not to make a straight remake after all. Instead, they wanted to continue the story. Garcia said the idea was not to actually remake Big Trouble in Little China, because you can't remake a classic like that. The plan was to continue the universe while keeping everything that happened in the original intact. He also made it clear that there was only one person who could ever play Jack Burton, so Dwayne Johnson would not try to take over Kurt Russell's character. Everyone seemed to agree that this was a better idea, and frankly, I see it that way too. We would get more of the whimsical chaos we loved, while Jack Burton would stay Jack Burton. Hell of those killed by idiots, aka development hell. That was not the end of the sequel's problems, though. In 2019, screenwriter Zack Stentz revealed that he had no idea the remake had now become a sequel, adding that he had turned in a script, the studio had seemed happy with it, and he had since heard rumors that they might be going in a different direction. Stentz speculated that Johnson's time with Kurt Russell on the Fast and the Furious movies may have led to conversations about doing the project as more of a sequel, possibly with Russell returning as an older Jack Burton and Johnson playing a new character. In the same interview, Stentz was asked whether Disney's acquisition of 21st Century Fox had anything to do with the project being stalled. Stentz said that, as far as he knew, they had not commissioned new writers and had not really moved forward, partly because Dwayne Johnson was booked for the foreseeable future, and partly because the Fox sale to Disney had thrown a lot of things into chaos and uncertainty. Stentz may have been referring to the many projects Johnson had on his plate around that period, including Black Adam, Jumanji, and Red Notice, which inevitably pushed Big Trouble in Little China further down the priority list. The final nails in the coffin. If that wasn't enough to kibosh the plans for the sequel, John Carpenter weighed in again and sounded even harsher. He said, "They want a movie with Dwayne Johnson. That's what they want. So they just picked that title. They don't give a shit about me and my movie." That movie wasn't a success. It was clear from Carpenter's words that he did not feel the new project was really about honoring his original version. In 2021, Russell was asked whether he was going to be in the sequel, and he seemed unsure. He told USA Today that he liked working with Johnson, and that if Johnson and his crew were going to do it, he hoped they would come up with something that made the title work. But he also indicated that he probably would not be in it. Fans didn't have to stay disappointed forever, though, because in 2023, Russell admitted that he would not completely rule out the possibility of a sequel. He said that you never say never, but it would need a great script, one that had something new to say and was somehow better than the first one. He also joked about having to slap John Carpenter around a little and say, "Come on, John, let's go do this." The reason Russell added the slap John around bit is that Carpenter has largely shifted away from theatrical directing. His last feature film as director was The Ward, released back in 2010. And in recent years, he has focused more on music, touring, producing, and video games. So even if he changed his mind about the sequel, he might not be interested in returning to the director's chair. Even though Russell's comment was more positive than Carpenter's, he still didn't sound certain, and the chances of getting a script that could imitate the lightning-in-a-bottle effect of the original film seems incredibly slim. You can be the judge on what he really means. As for producer Hiram Garcia, he still has not given up hope. Speaking to Collider in 2021, Garcia admitted to the troubles they were facing in creating a sequel for a film with such a legacy and said that it was still an ambition of theirs. He also said their goal was never to remake Big Trouble, but simply to continue it, similar to what they did with Jumanji, where the original stands on its own while a new story continues the world. Now, whether that hope will amount to something or not, only time will tell. What the sequel could be about. There are a lot of ideas floating around on the internet about what the perfect story could be for a Big Trouble in Little China sequel. Since Jack Burton is a truck driver in the film, some fans have suggested a series of films where he travels from one town to another, unexpectedly getting mixed up in crazy supernatural adventures. Others have suggested a sequel exploring a different Chinatown in the United States, perhaps one in New York or another major city. Since the original film has also faced criticism for elements that some viewers consider stereotypical or dated in its treatment of Chinese mysticism and Asian characters, any sequel would need to be careful, thoughtful, and much more culturally aware. The best version of a new film would not just borrow Eastern mythology for surface-level coolness, it would have to build the mythology with care, bring in authentic voices, and make the world feel richer, sharper, and less careless than many 1980s studio genre films could be. Hopefully, whatever story gets selected doesn't offend anyone this time around and still caters to the sweet nostalgia of loyal fans. The real sequel already exists on paper. This video is bound to have depressed some fans of Big Trouble in Little China, so before I end it, let me give you a silver lining. A sequel already exists. But not in the way that you think. It's a comic book continuation released by Boom Studios called Big Trouble in Little China: Old Man Jack. The series began in 2017 and was written by John Carpenter and Anthony Birch, with art by Jorge Corona. In the year 2020, Qing Dai breaks the barriers that protect Earth from different hells and declares himself the ruler of it all. The now 60-year-old Jack Burton is forced to fight him, but this time with some very unlikely help from his old enemy, Lo Pan. The series works as a fun continuation because it carries the old story forward and gives fans a chance to catch up with Jack Burton in a very different phase of his life. And this wasn't the only time Boom Studios expanded the lore of Big Trouble in Little China. Writer Eric Powell and artist Brian Cheria had previously worked on a Big Trouble in Little China comic series with John Carpenter in 2014. That series explored entertaining bits of Burton's past, including biker gangs, crazy exes, death cults, and other supernatural madness. The comic book side of the franchise has basically done what the movie sequel never managed to do. It kept Jack Burton's world alive. If you ask me, Old Man Jack is one of the cleanest continuation ideas available, and it could easily inspire a movie if Hollywood ever wanted to take the comic route. If only Hollywood executives were watching this video and listening to us right now. Stuck in development hell, or more fittingly, the hell of those killed by idiots, the sequel to Big Trouble in Little China seems to be lost in limbo. While we all wait for more news on the flick, why don't you go read the comic books? They're definitely worth your time. And while you're at it, also check out the 2016 crossover limited series released by Boom Studios called Big Trouble in Little China: Escape from New York, which is about Snake Plissken meeting the very similar-looking Jack Burton. I hope that will make the wait easier. If you ask me, I don't think we'll ever get a proper sequel to the film, and I'm not really disappointed about it. Sequels to nostalgic films and shows often seem to miss the mark and end up leaving a bitter taste in your mouth. Without a sequel, we still have the sweet memory of the original film, and that is, at least according to me, for the best. But tell me, what do you think about the idea of a sequel? Are we getting Bigger Trouble in Little China or not? Let me know in the comments below, and if you liked the video, tap on that thumbs up and please subscribe. We'll be back soon with more awesome stuff, but until then, goodbye.